Hello. Should we introduce ourselves?
Yeah, I'm Catherine.
I'm Savannah.
Maddie.
Jared.
Caroline.
Cool.
Okay, so one thing about the readings that struck me was looking into like how to find if a book is like racist or sexist or like how globally like appropriate it is. And I realized I like think about adult literature with like a very critical lens, or I like to think that I do, but like with children's lit I don't do that as much.
Yeah.
And I just assume too that if somebody had experiences in a culture or they're part of the culture, that it's automatically accurate and they don't necessarily scan it for anything else. And so they were talking about still scanning it and making sure it's appropriate. And I've never thought about that before.
Yeah, the one that I always overlooked was like the power one. Like, is somebody in a position of higher power, and how are they like treating the other people? I've never thought about that with kids' books.
Yeah.
It's especially like hard, I feel like, if you're reading something from another country where you don't know the social dynamics of that and the power dynamics of that cultural group. I don't know. It seemed like kind of overwhelming. Like, how would you really ever know?
How would
you have to
know?
really cross compare?
If you're relying on
research
this text as like your source of information, it's difficult to.
And then too, we don't necessarily know everything about the culture and their norms and everything, so how can we judge it accurately based on a combination of their cultures and ours?
There's one thing too about like how it was illustrated. It was saying like our non-white characters, so they have like non-distinct faces or something. And I was like, I thought that was really interesting too. I was like, I would have never thought.
Yeah, they
of
said
that.
like
I don't remember
people
reading
of
that.
color like always look the same apparently in children's books. That was one of the points that made me like.
Like basically like a white person with darker skin
Yeah.
Yeah,
instead of having like distinct features.
that's really interesting.
You know, I've never actually thought about it this deeply until I was reading through the
Yeah, the not the tunnel book, but the other one where it's just page 10 and 11, the like 10 things to look for. That was like,
I was like, oh.
I didn't know kids' books could be this in depth.
Right.
I thought they were very like face value, but apparently not. It's crazy.
I think it'll come with like practice as we like think more about those sort of what it outlined on those pages while we're like reading other books.
And I mean, I said in my post too that I don't necessarily know how accurate I'll be with it, or if I'll be able to do those things all the way through, because maybe I'm crunched for time, or because it's my first year teaching, I don't really know what to do, so I went in there, and so I'm gonna hopefully try and like incorporate those checks.
One thing cool though about like our class right now is that there's a lot like all the lists of books or like all these different books that have been read or they talk about in the text, and I'm like, okay, I'll start that one, and that one sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
So that makes it's like less daunting when there's like a list of like these are acclaimed books by people who know what they're
Somebody
talking about.
checked
It's like I don't know how I would find this.
Alright. So I have to do is press add to cart instead of like actually check it.
Yeah, I'm super excited about like building my classroom library.
Me too. That's the one thing about this class having all the different books that you have to get is it does help start build that library.
Yeah. And then we're actually looking at these books with that critical lens, so we can decide like, is this one that I want to keep? Is this one that I'm okay with letting go?
I think too. When I was reading the 10 ways page. I was kind of like, I wish I had this like 3 years ago.
Right.
Or 40, I don't know. When I was in India, that was like, I was working with the women's empowerment group, part of the nonprofit, and like the head lady told me to go through the children's books and like that people had donated and see if they're like worthwhile, and I had like no idea what I was doing. And like I noticed that a lot of them like that were like, it was very basic English, like the women were always like cooking or cleaning or whatever, and so like they were trying to like instill like you can do other things with your life too, not that that's bad, but like I didn't have any idea what I was doing. You know, like I was just like, I mean, they seem to be okay. This would have been a really good thing to have.
It's really nice to have it like laid out, like here are the questions to ask of the book.
And then like here are the things to look at. Here's like the power thing, like you were saying, like I never thought of that, or like just like different things.
Like in the roles that they play, like are they a sidekick all the time? Like do they ever get to like make a decision? Like those little aspects of it.
Yeah. Or like the words too. They were saying like loaded words, like lazy and like primitive or whatever. Like oh jeez, like seriously.
Oh jeez.
That have like a negative connotation.
And like some things like I wouldn't think of, and some I'm like, wow, why would you like have like why would you even talk about people like that? You know?
Anybody.
Yeah, it's awful. Let's see what else.
Did you guys enjoy reading about like sort of the history of children's books in Tunnel?
Yeah.
I thought
that was pretty interesting.
The horn books thing.
Yeah.
That was like, that is so strange. Like,
Yeah.
It's just this little like parchment thing they hold, and it's got like scripture on it.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
The Puritans being
Yeah.
like,
Children are evil.
They're evil like adults.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, that was
That's
one of
sad.
my jigsaw questions. Was like early children's books, and then I don't know, like 1800s and 1900s, and it was just so interesting to read about how like way back in the day, like stories came from storytellers. They weren't actually like written down, and if they were written down, it was like those lessons on like good behavior, and it was just so interesting to me because that's so different than what I've experienced, like the children's books that I read growing up, and like how they spark your imagination and teach you all these like lessons that aren't necessarily like this is how you're a good kid or whatever. But it was just super interesting to like read about that because I had no idea that that's when it started. Like
And children didn't really have ownership of like fairy tales and like myths and stuff in the way that they do now in our culture. Like
they were
I don't know, that was very
adults.
adult.
Yeah,
Yeah,
one would have been, like,
until like
adapted.
Hans Christian Andersen
And
and
like the Grimm brothers, like their original stories were very like dark.
Yeah, I really like read them. They're like intense.
And Disney just kind of changed them to be like lighthearted kids movies.
yeah, it's true.
I was kind of upset that they never mentioned Magic Treehouse. Like,
Well, I was thinking of Magic
I was waiting for them
Treehouse.
to talk about it, and I was just like kind of hurt because I was like, that's all I read.
That's what I grew up
Yeah.
with.
And they're still going too.
Yeah,
Like,
they're like
still
number
releasing
75.
Are you
Oh,
serious?
Yeah.
I thought they stopped. I
No,
thought they had
they're
like
still
a
going.
I thought they
Yeah,
had
I
like
thought
a
they did
20th book,
too.
and they're like, that's it. Like it was like a big deal, wasn't it? And like seventh,
It was.
sixth
They
grade
had,
or whatever.
they like hit the 20th, and they were like,
I wonder
"Oh, it's
who
a
the
big deal."
publisher of Magic Treehouse is.
Isn't it Random House?
I don't know, but the authors should just
It's
crank
whoever.
it out.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that too. Like they were.
Still have
I liked
it.
the adventures, but it was. I think I also liked like how comfortable I was with the predictability of the book.
Yeah.
They were the treehouse.
It's the same
See the
story
guy.
every time. But
They find the things. They go back.
There is comfort in the pattern, though. It's
Yeah,
true.
there
And like, I don't know. It's good for comprehension of kids who struggle reading. Like, I think that kind of repetitive pattern is maybe an okay thing. But at the same time, I feel like I don't know. The Tunnel book was talking about like the books that are produced cheaply in series by ghostwriters and stuff like that. Like they're really just turning a profit,
Mhm.
and maybe like high quality literature isn't the goal. You know.
I mean, it maybe got to that point for Magic Treehouse where it's still going. And
Mhm.
I think they added like a new thing with Merlin or something.
Yes,
They
they
had a
had
couple
one
of
with like the round table and stuff. I remember that.
Yeah,
That was a big
so
deal.
I mean, but like I think because it's been going on so long, I think it's probably closer to what you said, where it's like turning the profit with it being constantly predictable.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still good.
Did you guys ever have like an experience reading a children's book when you were little that like you didn't like, or that you didn't, I don't know, that stuck with you? When I was reading, like going through all this stuff, I was trying to think of like children's books that like I remember like not liking and
I
why.
have one I didn't like in middle school.
Yeah, what was that?
Ericon.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't get through it because it was just too much detail, too much.
Yeah.
It was like 100 pages in, and the dragon still hadn't hatched like it was supposed to, or something, and I just gave up because it was
It's like-
just too much.
Yeah,
Like
I
The
was
Hobbit,
really
you can get
Yeah,
like 300 pages
uh-huh.
into that book, and you're like, okay, they're just starting
The
the
Hobbit.
journey.
Yeah.
And they're still
Oh my
singing.
gosh. Because I had to read that for high school for like
Yeah.
required reading.
It's rough.
It was miserable. But
Do you guys have any books like growing up that you like didn't like, or
No,
like maybe why you didn't like them, or any books you did?
I mean, I'm sure they did.
Yeah.
They just didn't stick
I
with
wasn't much of an like avid reader when I was little, so
Yeah, neither.
I only read books
I
I
read-
liked, which was Magic Treehouse and like fantasy books. Like I was a huge fan of the Aragon series as a kid, and like Cornelia Funk, like Dragon Rider, Inkspell, like those kinds of books.
Like Artemis Fowl.
Inkspell was so good.
Yeah, I never read Artemis
Oh,
Fowl
that was good. I don't know.
though.
Yeah, I think I read it as well. And
I didn't read very
Harry
many
Potter.
Yeah, Harry Potter.
of
Yeah.
multicultural
Oh,
aspect,
yeah,
you know.
definitely.
Mine were all fantasies.
I think
Same.
all the books that were like also provided at my school, like I don't remember there being like a section or a category that, you know, where you're learning about these other cultures, or if there was, I just wasn't aware of it, or
Because it was probably pretty small.
yeah.
I do remember one book that we read in like 4th grade. I think it was a Civil War book, and there was like the main character was African American. He was fighting for the South or for the North, and like was meeting with, like they like met up and like camped after the battles together and talked because most of them were neighbors. And then like in the morning they would go fight each other again. You know, I don't know. I still remember
That's so cool.
the day that she read that to us because. It was just weird thinking about like during the Civil War, like it's Americans on both sides, and they would like drink and sit around a fire together after the battles, and then separate and fight each other the next day. So it was really weird.
And it probably also like stuck with you because it was from a different like
Yeah.
perspective too.
Yeah.
And like I think fantasy is awesome. Like I read a lot of fantasy when I was like growing up, and I like still do. But I think, and that's something that like people can relate to because it's like out of context. You know, like they can find themselves in their shoes. But I think it's really important to find something that's like harder to relate to. You know, that you have to like work a little harder.
Forces you to stretch yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a little historical like fiction, like gives you that kind of perspective too.
But also keeping in mind that like historical textbooks and stuff are also coming from the perspective of the higher power, and it's not always like accurate.
Mm-hmm.
That Village of 100 People video, like we're
Oh, yeah,
1%
I've
of
seen
the
that.
world
Yeah.
by like being in
Stupid.
college.
Yeah.
And like at first I was like, okay, like this is kind of cheesy, like these like pictures and the music, and then I was like, I've showed like 12 people, like I like, emailed my parents, and, like showed my roommates. My roommate came in and was like complaining about traffic or something, and I was like, I had just finished watching the video, and I was like, come here.
Yeah.
Like, come here.
You have no reason to complain.
It's time to guilt trip you. Let's go. But I think it was to me is a huge reality
It's
check.
like a huge eye opener.
Yeah,
it is.
and I think that's also something to like educate students on too. Like, yeah, we have like disadvantages in this class. You remember, you know, like we all have like things that are going on in our life, but like let's think about the fact that like we're all able to like peacefully and safely like study, and you know, like that's amazing.
And I think the other thing too with that is to approach it very carefully, because we don't want to say that, oh, the things that you're upset about or what you're going through are not that big a deal because there are all these people
Yeah.
who are, so it's like it's something you have to approach very carefully with your reasons to be upset, frustrated, sad, mad, they're valid. And then there's also this.
Yeah.
Because I feel like sometimes when people talk about stuff like that, they do it as a way to undermine
That's a good point.
how you're feeling. Like saying, oh, well, you shouldn't be upset about this because there are people starving and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So it's like being able to approach it carefully and say, there's this happening here, and what you're feeling is valid.
To me, that
That's important.
like watching that video made me think a lot about like how do you teach or like educate on like gratitude or like empathy, and I think that is something with a lot of these like global books too. Like how do you teach like these things that could be inherent, like people could just be empathetic people, or it might be something you can teach, and like that's a really interesting idea to me.
I totally think you have to teach empathy.
You do.
Yeah.
There was an article, I don't know, I was watching it, and it was about teaching first graders empathy, and they ended up writing a letter to that football player in Minnesota who missed the kick to lose the game. Yeah, they wrote letters to him saying, I am so sorry that you missed it. We
That's
cried
so
because you
cute.
were sad, and you've taught me it's just a game, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, that's really
because
nice.
they were from Minnesota, so it was like,
And that's cool because it also relates to like current events
Events,
that most
mhm.
students, I would assume,
Would
are
know.
aware of. Yeah, at least in our
Or could easily be made aware of.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like I think going back to that video, just like even like unrelated from how the students are feeling or not necessarily connected to that, but like giving them that perspective on the world, because I think, well, I don't know, you even think about like the maps that showed like Europe and America and everything being like way bigger than everywhere else, which is like not the case, you know, like the skew, and I think that's just the skew that obviously our culture puts on a lot of things, so it's nice to like have the facts and like look at it. What's really
Yeah, I found the video was like a very humbling reality check.
yeah, like
It was short and sweet and wasn't like an hour-long lecture where, you know, it just kind of drained you of your spirit, but like just quick and short. It's like, okay, I think a little bit differently for the next 10 minutes.
Yeah, for sure.
Have any of you read or heard of The Other Side before this class? It was a book that in my 481 class, my teacher brought in textbooks that bring in other cultures and what they've gone through. And that's actually when I was introduced to this book, and so I'm glad that I got to like revisit it with like almost like a different lens after seeing that. Those 2 pages that we were talking about where you're like looking at it from different lenses. What did you guys think of the book?
I was surprised I'd never heard of it.
yeah.
Because, I mean, too, I'm from the South, too, so it's like adding in. There were more books that were more aware of what was happening in the civil rights movement. I don't necessarily know now that they were all that accurate, but I'd never heard of it, and so it was really neat to be able to see it and look at it from how Joy was saying, too, in the video.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I like what she was talking about too with like this is like a fence, but there's actually a lot more to it too. Like it's like on one side it's like somebody's yard, right? But it's also like, you know, privilege, or it's also like freedom, or all
It's
these
like the
things.
symbolism.
Yeah,
it's
like this scene where the white girl's out like dancing around in the mud and the puddles, but then like the black girl's like inside watching. Like that right there showed the opposites.
Yeah, like she was so free to like do whatever she wanted.
Carefree, you know. And like she's inside like kind of with like the oppression theme, like By the Rain was like it had like this theme of oppression.
Yeah.
And like when she pointed out that the fence didn't end too, like there wasn't a clear end to the fence, I thought that was like something I wouldn't have noticed
You're like, well,
if
that's
she
really
didn't point
deep,
it out.
actually.
Yeah.
And I also like to think like what are things that the author did purposefully, and what are things that like I can like think about that the author didn't even think about. You know?
Did they even notice that they did that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I loved like the hint at the end of like someone coming and knocking the fence down. I really thought that was really, I don't know, cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Me too.
And like I like, how would you guys incorporate that? Do you think in a curriculum or
Like the book itself.
Just maybe like some kind of lesson about equality or something, I would use that book. Just gain a little perspective.
Yeah.
Maybe symbolism too.
Yeah.
That might be a little too advanced for like a second grade class though.
But you
Yeah.
can still use it in like
Maybe
4th
fourth.
and 5th grade classrooms, too.
I feel like students would have really big insights coming into that lesson. Like, what does the fence mean to you? That kind of just like seeing their viewpoint versus like an adult.
But like, even are there any fences like that in your life? Like, it doesn't have to represent like
Yeah, like not literal
racism or
fences.
yeah,
Like how we are so,
things you feel like you can't do because
Yeah. and how like we're supposed to see ourselves like in these characters or in these situations. Like, how do they see themselves in that? Yeah.
I think that's an interesting point though about like talking about symbolism and like when is it like too early too? Like
like how do you talk about it with younger students?
yeah, like this is something
That
that,
could be a money
represents
question.
something else.
Okay. It's still recording.
I think though, like I wonder
Alrighty.
if it'd be actually easier for students that are like easier than I think for students that are younger to like understand like figurative stuff, because I feel like as we get older we get like more literal about things.
Yeah.
Or like it's harder for us maybe to like have
You're more consciously aware of symbols.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
It's almost more like constricting.
Yeah.
So I have a little questions about that.
Okay. So we're muddy question.
Figurative language and instruction
and symbols and how do you talk about it
in
with
the younger
young
grades,
students?
especially.
Okay.
You know, like knowing when you're reaching a topic that's like too complex.
Mhm.
Because I feel like they can get some of like the easier symbolism, but like things that are kind of too heavy.
Like, what should you teach versus what
Yeah.
shouldn't you teach? Like you said, like, is it too heavy
Mhm.
or?
Or like is exposing them to like that kind of story enough? You know, like
Mm-hmm.
Like, where's the line?
yeah.
More like between.
Do those count as multiple mini questions?
I think some other many questions towards the
Yeah,
beginning
let's-
too that we could.
I'm thinking of this, like you were talking about like themes too, or like what is like what's too heavy. They talked about like one book was like Rose Blanche. It was like about like a Nazi concentration camp
Yeah.
or something, and like I can't imagine like being like, oh yeah, this looks pretty good, and then like reading it in front of the class.
Yeah,
Like,
that would definitely be something that you would have to go through before.
Right. I could see like for some of the stuff I was like, okay, yeah, like this is good to go through it, and then I like looked at that and I was like, I can't imagine just reading that.
My first year of college, I took a Surviving the Holocaust class, and that was a class where almost every time I would leave class, like, I'd be crying.
Yeah.
It was a
It's
really
heavy stuff.
emotional class, yeah.
Did you take that here?
I took that at Everett Community College,
Oh, cool.
and I'm really glad that I did because I was aware of like some of the things that happened in the Holocaust, but actually like diving deep, like I have like 9 or 10 books that I've still like held on to, and we had like a guest speaker come who actually like was in a concentration camp, and that was really like I was like, oh my gosh,
And I'll
tell me everything.
Have you guys seen the movie The Boy in the Striped Pajamas?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
Or
the
read
other
the
side reminded
Yeah.
me of.
Yeah, that's
Very
actually a
similar.
super good connection.
Yeah,
to
that's
that,
what I talked
to
about
that.
in my jigsaw. It's like the entire time she was reading that, I was like, this is very similar to that
Yeah.
movie. I didn't read the book, but I watched the movie.
The book is
Wow.
pretty simple.
I haven't
I
seen the
I-
movie, but I
I-
read the book.
I think I would read this book to them and then show them that movie probably in like the same lesson, just like
Yeah, like because you can, the
It's
like
very
image
similar,
of the fence
yeah.
is
Or like
really
parts of
pretty
it.
huge, symbolic.
Yeah.
I-
Consistent.
I went with I didn't know anything about that movie, and I went with my little brother, and
Oh.
because I thought it was about a boy
Yeah.
in pajamas.
Yeah.
Like that's all what I was like. We were like looking
Like the
at.
title was a little misleading.
Yeah, I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we got there, and I was like, ah.
Because
what
that's
is-
like
what is
one of the
that?
first things he says to him is like, I like your pajamas, like even though they weren't pajamas,
Yeah.
using like a striped prison suit.
Yeah.
And I think that's also like one really interesting thing about that. I like later read the book too, and it was like all the people that weren't like could see the concentration camp and had an idea what was going on, but like
Just-
didn't do anything.
Nothing.
And like that reminded me of the other side too. Like like people like obviously like people know like this is it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like an ignorance.
But that's
is
just
bliss
the way
thing.
it is.
Yeah, like this is it.
Don't
Like,
ask,
this is
don't
how it's
tell.
going.
Yeah.
The status quo part too of the other side. was
So
kinda
why do you
powerful.
think, like, do you think those two stories are particularly like powerful because they're from a child's perspective?
Yeah.
I think so.
Oh,
That's a good meta question too.
I like that.
Well, I don't know. I think it is. Like, I think it just.
I think if a student is reading that or watching that, they are able to relate to it more because it's from a child's perspective.
And you can like ask the kids too, like, why do you think these kids were so like eager to get along, but the grown-ups aren't? Like, what?
Yeah,
what has
like, why
happened
can't
in
they
their
be
lives
friends
to
and play
where,
together?
yeah, like this
Exactly.
Jewish kid and this German kid they don't know like what's really going on, so they think it's okay to play. They're just
Yeah.
kids. So it's like what happens to us as we get older that changes,
Exactly.
and we start seeing other people differently.
I liked that in the other side. Although the parents were telling the girls like otherwise not to play with each other, they still had that urge of just like we're both humans. Like
It's like a really natural.
you look
form
like
of
you are a fun
resistance.
person to play
That's
with. I'm a
also
fun person
like
to
something
play
that
with.
was kind of strange. They did say that like don't go over there, but then the
But they
page
never
where she
actually
goes and
did.
sits up there, and then she doesn't do anything. She says, "Oh, I
Yeah.
see you made a new friend."
Yeah.
She tells her not to go over there, and seems like she's gonna be strict about it, and then she's not.
Yeah, I was thinking that she was like coming from the point of view of like, if you do that, like you're gonna get hurt, like emotionally, like
Yeah.
you're gonna be hurt. And then she like sees her on the fence, and she was like, maybe this is the only way you can learn,
That's
Yeah.
true too. Yeah.
like, or
That's a cool insight.
Leave it up to the other set of parents. Like at that point, I don't know.
I think it's interesting with the kids' books too, is because I feel like they use language that kids can understand
Kid-friendly.
and really like
Like
drive
short,
in even the
simple
harder
sentences,
things.
too. Like the dialogue was like so short and simple, but like really powerful at the same time.
And books like that, I feel like, can bring empathy out of students.
And it's not like explicitly putting a name to any of the things. It's
Right.
just like dealing with the honest feelings that like are real and relatable. Whether you've
Like it's
experienced
subtly
it or
hints
not.
at that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And it's like exactly more like a kid would experience it.
Mm-hmm. Like with that book too, I was thinking about like what makes people not change things, like you were talking about, and where does that fear lead people? Like, what does it lead you to do?
Bloody question.
There was I don't remember which reading it was in, but it was one of the readings where they talked about how like by age what was it? It was like by age 4 they know there's a difference between people, and then by age 10 we're already developing like racial stereotypes like kids are. Like by 5th grade, like by age 10, that's when they're like already developing their like prejudice.
Think about the media, like
Yeah.
start watching.
So like it's
so
really
young.
important in elementary school just to like get that prejudice out of there, because it's going to be earlier and earlier too.
Which
And
can definitely be super difficult though if they're raised in a family.
Yeah, because like
that
elementary
feeds
kids
them
have
that
iPhones now.
information.
Like
Yeah.
we're going to be teaching like 3rd and 4th graders who have iPhones.
I know.
that
I've
have
been
more
thinking about that.
information
Yeah.
at their fingertips that like you can
Provide.
verbally tell
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Like
so weird to
before,
think about.
kids were kind of like shut out from the world, so to speak, where like they weren't reading newspapers and out like hearing things at the bar. You know what I mean? Like they were just at home at school, and
Yeah.
their source of information was like their teachers and their parents.
Yeah.
Now it's like they're accessing
connected to
the world, the internet, and like their global
And the
perspectives.
world is accessing them. It's
Yeah.
like they don't even have to try.
So it's like increasingly harder to teach these kids now. Like they come in with prejudice already just from like their phones, pretty much.
Yeah, I think it's more important than ever. Like, I don't know, I feel like we've talked about it in like every religion class I've had, and no child comes in a blank slate. Like,
Yeah, and no teacher does either though. Like,
Yeah.
I think you have to think about like what biases you have.
oh,
And like,
absolutely.
I don't know, no one likes to think
That your
that they're.
students pick up on.
Yeah, no one likes to think that they're a prejudiced person. You know.
Yeah, I
think
just
Everybody
think,
been socialized though.
but like I feel like probably everybody has some kind of bias or
towards or
prejudice
against something.
towards something.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's also super important to teach our students like to be reading these things, whether it's on their phone, whether it's something that we're having them read, with those things in mind on those lists that we went over
Mhm.
in our readings,
Yeah. Like
so that they're self-aware too.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that too. Like, it's really, this list is really good for me to look at, but like, but we're always trying to teach kids like how to be critical thinkers, right? And like, I think being transparent is a really good idea. And so like, showing kids like, this is why I chose this book. Like, this author has done a lot of research in this thing. Or
Like tell them, like
yeah,
be
this word is like,
specific about.
yeah.
Means this. Well, that's cool because, like, when you were talking, I was thinking, like, okay, so yeah, we're trying to get kids to be critical thinkers or, like, analyze these books or these sources that are coming at them. And, like, how do you do that? And I think you just brought up a really good way to do it is just, like, model it. Like, talk through, like, your choices and, like, why.
Maybe
Yeah,
see what
why
they can
certain
add.
words are more meaningful. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. This means that it's, like, from, like, a perspective that we should all learn about, you know about. And it's important.
I was reading a article for Compass to Campus about like unpacking your bag. It was called "Unpacking Your Backpack: White Privilege" or something like that. And it was how like we don't really notice the like white privilege that we have because we're so used to it. So I think it's really important like, for teachers to acknowledge their privileges and then to use them in a very positive way. Like if you like being a white male, like I have a lot of privileges, so it's like how am I
Even
gonna
white females?
how am I gonna
Yeah.
use that positively though instead of negatively?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I think it's just important in general too for everyone, especially like on campus too, to learn about your privilege. Like especially with what happened last quarter.
Yeah.
Like to learn that this didn't affect you because of whatever. And I know talking with even my roommates, it sometimes gets uncomfortable because sometimes they don't want to talk about it or talk about their own privilege or they don't see it yet. So it's kind of like...
I feel like at times too, like when you realize your privileges, you have like a sense of guilt.
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, it's
So it can be hard to talk about.
Yeah.
Maybe uncomfortable self-reflection,
Yeah.
like, you know.
Yeah, like I have a class this quarter, the American Indian Experience.
Oh, do you have with Danny Rao?
No, people always ask me that. It's not him
He's
this
tight,
quarter though.
that's why.
Yeah, but I'm very uncomfortable in that class because it's like I am one of 3 white males in that class, and everybody else is a person of color, and I just feel like really guilty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And even though like I haven't done anything in my life to perpetuate it, like I consider myself not racist and I love everybody, but like just being a white male, you feel like some level of guilt naturally.
And on the opposite side of that, it's so weird because I take like these AMST courses or these ELL courses, and I'm in a room full of primarily white females.
Yeah, the only time that
And so
you're
that
not
makes me
minority.
feel guilty because there aren't students
Oh,
of
in the
color
American Studies
in
classes?
the classes. Yeah.
Oh.
Like I took one and I don't think there were any students of color that were in my class.
Oh, I took like Black Political Thought, which is an American Studies one, and there were a handful of Woodring girls in it, but other than that, it was like a really good mix. It was the only
Was
time
it?
I haven't been the
Yeah,
majority.
because I haven't-
Studies class was amazing. I was definitely a minority in that class.
It feels
Cool thing to experience,
yeah.
I guess. But it's also to me like I was like, yeah, I'm like, I guess in this class like there's only a few white people, but I was like, this is not even at all what like a minority experience is.
No, no,
And I was just
yeah.
like it's maybe a little bit like I would walk in and be like, wow, there's not a lot of people who like look like me, but like,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that like all those like the
that you know how they feel.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I maybe have a little window, but I don't know
Yeah.
how you feel.
But I think when you're talking about race, and like, I don't know if you felt this way in your class, like, but do you find it's hard to like enter into those group discussions about it? Like,
Well, yeah, kind of.
coming from.
Especially because like the talk we just had in the last class was all about white privilege,
Uh-huh.
and so it was totally reasonable, and they had every right to do it, but they were just basically bashing on white people the entire time, and so it was like I just kept my
It's
mouth
hard to,
shut
like,
and sat in the
sit
corner. Yeah, I was just like, I don't want to speak up right now.
It
but-
just almost feels like you sometimes don't even have, like it's not yours to speak on or something.
We were
It's how
talking-
I felt in that class.
And we were like focusing on reverse racism and how it doesn't exist and stuff like that. And I agree, it's
Yeah.
not really like reverse discrimination and stuff like that exists, but not necessarily racism. Because
Can you explain what that is to me?
it's like what's that word?
Institutionalized.
Yeah, that word
Okay.
for like racism towards white people too. And like the main like thing is like the stereotypes that white men can't dance, white men can't jump, like those things,
Mhm.
and how those are racist comments, but they don't affect white people as much as the racist comments we
It's
say
not
about
oppressive
minorities. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
and so it doesn't exist, but there's definitely discrimination going both ways.
Yeah.
Like naturally.
It reminds me. Okay, this is really elite, but if nobody has thought about this, then try to talk about it. But when the Canadian Prime Minister was elected, when was that? The fall or the
It
summer?
was in the fall.
It was in the fall. And there were a ton of articles and things because they're talking about like how attractive he is and like all of this stuff, and people just entered into a discussion or dialogue about it that was like, okay, why, if this was a female in this position and people were making all these comments about her appearance, that
because
people would be upset. People would be really
It would
upset.
trigger
And
all of the feminists.
in reverse, maybe it's still not a great thing, but there is a difference because of the power dynamic that exists.
And it's just the difference in like genders too.
Yeah.
Like it's not really an issue for like males to hear that kind of stuff, like because they don't assume that they were elected because they're good looking.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like the reverse side of that, females might.
I mean, like, I think there were even comments, like, about Hillary Clinton's appearance. And this is just the primaries.
Oh, I'm sure
From
there.
the-
I mean,
from the other side, and it's like,
Yeah, always.
this isn't what that's about.
I'm always like if that's the first and only thing you have to say, like you are lacking with like actually like appropriate,
Like
like
a brain. You
intelligent
don't have a brain.
feedback on her points or her point of views or her policies. Like, let's talk about some other stuff. We can talk about her like red suit jacket later. You know?
Yeah. Always the suit jacket. Okay, maybe we can get back onto the readings. Does anybody want to talk about? I guess we kind of did talk about the other side and like your.
Yeah, I think it was kind of a natural flow. It just went from one to the other.
Yeah. Is there anything that you feel like we missed that we didn't want to talk about?
So we talked about chapter 15.
Mm-hmm.
Did we
Yeah.
touch on chapter 5?
Yeah.
That was
that's
the
what we started
history.
with.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
And then we talked about reading globally briefly.
So was we supposed to read chapter 8? I read chapter 8.
No, it was
No.
chapter 5, 15.
But then there was
But hey,
Thanks.
look at you.
It's a good chapter. You should check it out.
Wait, what was the other? Wasn't there one more?
There's rethinking schools.
Yeah,
Oh, reading globally is a.
Yeah.
Okay.
there was the online chapter, and then pages 10 and 11 of one textbook, and then 5 and 15 of the other one.
Yep.
But
Good, we covered it.
the 10 steps on the, what book is that? Is it Rethinking
That's
Schools?
Rethinking Schools,
Yeah, where it's just 2 pages.
Yeah.
I really liked that. How
I
like
kind of
I feel
want
like that's
constructing
practical, and
extremely.
instead of like dissecting this whole chapter of the text, it's like it's provided
It's right
for
there.
you in a way
Yeah.
that like you can
understand print out.
understand.
and easy
have
to
it
come back to and look
easy,
at.
like
it's
print
a
it out,
checklist.
laminate it, boom.
I know that's what I was thinking of doing, was just printing it out and just keeping it somewhere
Yeah.
for a while, because it's 2 pages. It's
That's a nice
Yeah,
example.
kind of like a cheat sheet, kind of. Like
Yeah,
every time you have a book,
exactly.
you have this next to you, and you're like going through the checklist.
Yeah.
And reading globally, you had to read through all that
All
stuff
of
before
it.
you got to like the rubric that was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, like.
I think too, like one thing I was thinking of doing when we get to reading like the children's books in this class, we can see how they might or might not align with those 10.
Yeah, I think that is the
And
intent.
yeah, I'm sure that's the purpose. Too.
Yeah.
That's what she wants us to
Because
talk
we
about.
haven't even started with the kids' books, and now that we've read all this, we will start with them.
Yeah.
I read Persepolis.
I have that one.
I started Esmeralda.
I'm reading City of the Beast right now.
Yeah, Persepolis is super good. Like, whoa.
Because I was going to start that tonight.
Yeah, I need to get a lot of the other ones.
Did you guys get City of the Beast or House of Scorpions?
I got City of the Beast.
I don't.
It doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah, I got House of Scorpions just because it sounded
It
cool.
was also the only one actually available on Amazon.
Yeah.
House of Scorpions.
I got
Yeah.
in the library.
I had
So-
purchased all of them on Amazon, and I literally, when it was the decision one, like one of them was completely sold out, so I just went with the other.
I got them all off Barnes and Noble.
And this is really lame, but like if there was a decision, I picked the cheaper one.
Yeah, I don't think that's
Hey,
lame.
that's
I think
not-
that's
that's
logical.
economical.
Yeah, 'cause I was thinking,
That's good
it's already a
finances.
bunch of books, and I'm thinking, okay, do I want to pay another couple of extra dollars, or does this one sound good to me? And it did, so I was like, that's why
Well,
my
has
first
anyone
thought
read Esperanza Rising?
I'm reading it
That's
right
like
now.
my favorite.
I just started it.
Well, I think that's all we have to talk.
I feel like this one is supposed to be kind of shorter because we don't have actual a
Yeah,
whole bunch of
we're-
books to talk about.
And I
and
think
make
she's kind of
connections
like
to.
easing us into it
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
next
Wow.
week it'll be huge.
Yeah.
Call her out.
All right, bye, enjoy.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Logging off.